What's up, everybody?
My name is Anthony Irvin.
You beat yourself?
Yeah,
Yeah, CB myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm Jim Green.
Don't even need a hit of traffic light.
Okay, good.
Welcome to
One set. Right before the recording started, I was like, Patreon.com/one set pod.
yeah.
Yeah, all of that. All right, let's just go for it and we can catch up after. And by go for it, you mean settle in on planning later. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's do the thing, man. The weekend, you obviously had some stuff going on. I saw our buddy Leonardo hanging out with the animals in Philly.
Philly.
So cue us all in on all of that.
Yeah, man. We usually do the Boo at the Zoo event. We've done it at the Elmwood Zoo the last couple of years, but this is the first year that we've done it at the Philadelphia Zoo. So, little man's been excited to wear his costume. I had just recently got him into the Ninja Turtles, and he was just in love with it. So he wanted to be a Ninja Turtle for Halloween this year, and he got the whole get up and everything. So we were able to get him out there and he had fun, and it was pretty cool because obviously they just put the Ninja Turtle movies out recently, so there was a lot of other kids there with Ninja Turtle costumes as well, but it was cool because you're like, I watched the Ninja Turtles when we were growing up, so it's cool to see a new era of children appreciating like the same things that we were watching when we were that age, you know?
I mean, yeah, let's take it back to Batman Blue, right? Like Adam West Batman.
Yeah.
Because there were obviously fans of the show at that time. And when, cinema started really skyrocketing, and any of our old next gen, and by next gen I mean previous generation fans of Batman Blue, correct me if I'm wrong, if it's like, oh no, that's the best, everything after that was cool but not as great as that, and maybe it's just an appreciation value, and maybe this is like we were watching Two Bears with Tom Segura and Matt Rife, where Tom was like, yeah, dude, the current day stuff is not going to be anywhere near as cool once you get a little older.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because I think that the film industry and film writing and movie writing and storyline telling has just, and we could talk about all of the Batman movies if we wanted to. I think we already kind of have dived into that previously.
I think so, like in a couple things before, too.
Well, we talked about like the Jokers, who's the best of the Jokers. Like we've definitely talked about that. But it's like, okay, what remakes are being done, or are there modern renditions that actually elevate the original concept to a different level that's widely appreciated versus the people who saw it first? It's like, are they naysayers in that retrospect, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be a cool concept, even though they just did the Flash movie with Michael Keaton. It would be cool if they had like a spin-off of Michael Keaton, but I mean, spoiler, but I won't say it. I mean, it's still kind of new, so whatever. But it would be cool if they did something, you know, to kind of go off of the 1989, 1990, movie with Keaton, and kind of do it years later, where it's almost like a Halloween thing where it's like 40 years later, and it's pretty much 40 years from the original night, where like Batman would be placed in that almost same type of time difference, where it's like 40, 50 years later, where you know he's kind of given up the whole Batman thing, but then something within Gotham brings him back, and people are like, or the commissioners of that time are trying to get him to step back into the Batman persona, and something just clicks in him, and he does it one last time. So that would be a cool one last send off for the original Batman. But I because I heard they were trying to do more with Michael Keaton and Batman, but I'm not sure if there's anything in you know the running or any projects with it. But I heard that this won't be the last time that he will be in the Batman costume. I hope not. I would like to definitely see him again, but we'll see.
Right. And as much as that movie was 24 years ago now, because Batman 89, even in the MCU universe,
Yeah.
where spoiler, and again, we had a discussion about this in one of the earlier episodes where, hey, what constitutes as a spoiler that's a spoiler? And we were like, hey, 2 weeks after a movie comes out, the internet ruins everything. So this is where, when we're
Mhm.
talking about movies that are years removed, I'm going back to um Avengers Endgame. um Iron Man,
Yeah.
Tony Stark sacrifices himself to defeat Thanos,
Yeah.
and everyone's still
Mhm.
waiting for Tony Stark to reprise his role again. And it's like,
Mhm.
with what they're doing with all the time travel stuff, like, and the multiverse stuff, like, they've opened up the floodgates for anything to be possible. And I think because they did so many good things in the latter end of phase 3 for the Infinity Saga, that everyone's just kind of like, what are you doing now? Like, they're waiting for bigger and better things to happen. And
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to slow burn. And it's like, you don't understand. The patience isn't there when you just did something so big. Like, you have to make
Yeah.
more monumental things happen along the way. And I have read um, that Kevin Feige might be like ready to just be done with the MCU and be like, all right, well, we're kind of like running. And this could just totally be rumor also, and
Mhm.
and speculation. Um, I think that there's so many avenues that they can go, but I think that they shot themselves in the foot a little bit by casting all of the big names that they did earlier. That now that they're trying to introduce new characters, with, obviously they're bringing in some names, but because you're coming off of all of the big names that they had for Infinity War and Endgame, that people are just starting to lose interest, myself included. If I'm being honest, I'm just like,
Mhm.
come on, get us to like, I went and saw Ant-Man Quantumania, which I told you, like, hey, Kang is supposed to be like the Thanos of
Uh-huh.
this trilogy series. And for as much as people ragged on it, I thought it was good. Like, I enjoyed it, but there were allegations against that actor in real life, and there are um a lot of people just saying, yeah, we don't see this really being the thing. And it's because people aren't patient. Like, not to get
Right.
into not to get into sports talk, like this, because I really am trying to shy away from it. But us Philadelphia fans are very like, we have high expectations. Like, hey, you're a good team. You made it to the Super Bowl. Okay, produce results. Come
Especially
on,
this season, yeah.
we're all behind you. Let's go. Phillies, same thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think with them, at least they had like the rocky road to get there, and there was like some doubt along the way. But now that they are where they are, it's like, okay, produce results. And if you don't, uh, for the teams that come and face us in Philadelphia that are like, oh, the Philadelphia fans are the most raucous, like, um, unapologetic fans. It's
Yeah.
it's like, that being said, when we don't execute and when we are not producing the results that the expectation is, like, we're gonna let you know. And we're not gonna be those fans that's like, oh, get them next time. It's not who we
Right.
are, right? I mean, um, you will know about the Sixers more. Um, and like I've said before, I am very new into the sports realm, and I'm very much more serious in the past 2 to 3 years, more like a year and a half to two. Granted, I was super into the Eagles when we like the season that we won the Super Bowl, but
Yeah.
like, at least speak to like the Sixers vibe in that regard, if you could.
Well, I would think since I went to a lot more basketball games when I was a kid than baseball and football games, I would definitely say that from my experience that you still have that Philly vibe at the Sixers games, but it's nothing like the Eagles games and the Phillies games. You know, because I remember. I mean, I was there at the 2008 World Series game. I was watching. I was in Philly watching the Sixers play, and it was the last game of the World Series that night that we won. Uh, the World Series, and it was just
Wait.
a totally different vibe.
You were in Philadelphia when that happened? Like, you were.
It, I was actually in Philly. Like we were, I forget who the Sixers were playing that night. They were playing at the Wells Fargo Center that night, and then the Phillies were playing right across the street. Like in the game, what game was it? I think game 5, game 6, and
It was game
the
6.
the
Yeah.
Sixers just got over, and they allowed people to. Yeah. So the Sixers got over and they allowed people to stay in the Wells Fargo Center and go to the bar area to watch the end of the Phillies game because it was getting close. I think it was maybe the seventh or eighth inning. It was very, very near the end. And they allowed people, like, if they were able to just stay around the bar areas, watch the end of the game. And they had that last out. Everybody went nuts in the Wells Fargo Center. And then we just started making our way down to the Citizens Bank, park. And we just walked all the way down Broad Street. It was
When
nuts.
you and who?
I thought
Like,
I told you this before.
jeez, Aunt, come on. That was 15 years ago now, right?
It's
So you
probably
might have
been a
told me
little
when it
while.
happened.
Okay, so
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it was my brother, and again, I'm sure he don't mind. I think he's given me permission before, but it was me, my brother, and Nick
Okay.
Holly,
Yeah, sure.
and we were at the Sixers game, and then my brother went off and he found a couple of his buddies that were at the game. So he went off, and then was me and Nick, and we went up to the front of the Citizens Bank Center, and Citizens Bank Park, and got in the front of it, started just cheering with all the fans, and people were just going nuts. And then we just decide because his girlfriend at the time lived down Broad Street, so we just decided to walk all the way down Broad Street to go to her house. And along the way, we're seeing people climb up the phone poles, just going nuts, and it was awesome. It was one of those moments where you were in the right place, the right time. If I didn't go to that game, I would have never been anywhere near Philly that night.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I don't remember exactly where I was when I watched the Phillies win.
Yeah.
But I know the company that I was with, and we took like a ride into the city to just drive around just to see like what the atmosphere was like. It was wild. I think that we actually laid the groundwork for greasing up like the
Yeah.
poles so people could
Yeah, definitely
not
that night
climb on
was
them.
the reason why. Yeah, I think that night was the reason why a lot of people grease the poles up now, because there was just mad people just climbing up all the street lights and hanging from the street lights. You cops couldn't do anything that night. They couldn't even get to anybody because people were just filled in the streets. Broad Street was a madhouse.
Yeah, I think if you're a like a law enforcement agent in that city when the celebration is happening, the one thing that like you really have to look out for is just violence. And when you see people celebrating in a way that looks like not
Yeah.
harmful, they're just kind of letting it happen, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I mean, as long as it's not like causing uh you know like a violent act or like causing harm, usually they'll let people go. As long as it's not like really getting too out of hand, they're gonna let people celebrate and do what they need to do, as long as nobody's trying to get hurt or cause like any disturbance or something. But it was just something that I won't forget, because like I said, it was you just right place, right time. uh, and I'm surprised that the Sixers even had a. Well, I guess you really can't do anything about it, because the Sixers and baseball, they kind of intersect eventually when it gets to the World Series eventually. So it just so happened that they both had a game that night, and just right place, right time. Phillies were about to win it, and just people went nuts. It was amazing.
so as I've told you before, and maybe I don't think I've talked about this like for as much as when I drive to work. Geez, over the last 20 years of driving, up until maybe a year, or I'd say like more consistently a year ago. I
Mm-hmm.
don't listen to music when I drive anymore. Like I'm like, okay, what podcast do I want to listen to when I have this longer ride?
Yeah.
If I'm traveling on my own. Um, but like I've really like lately been listening to 94.1 WIP, which I told you I'm like
Mm-hmm.
I love
Yeah.
listening to WIP. And the one podcast that I listen to like religiously every Wednesday on my longer trip, pardon me, in the last like 3 weeks, I'm getting to Monday and I'm like, oh, I didn't even listen to that last week or the week before, because I was listening to like sports talk radio. Sorry,
Yeah.
hiccups on my end. Pardon me. But
Have you ever wanted to start your podcast but didn't know where to start? The One Set Bros are here to talk to you about Zencaster. Zencaster is the ultimate base podcasting solution, and now the all-in-one podcasting platform, making podcasting easy. They've sure made it easy for us to be able to record our podcast and our episodes every week for you guys. Once you've set up your account, you're simply one click away from recording a high-quality podcast with studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. My personal favorite feature is their multi-layer backups, which ensure our recordings are always in the highest quality, even during unstable web connections. And if you thought you needed multiple tools and services for your podcast, Zencastr's all-in-one podcasting platform allows you to create your podcast all in one place and distribute to Spotify, Apple, and other major destinations. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code OneSetPod, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences we do with all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. When you're talking about hydration, hydration is not only for people training for championships and marathons. We're talking about daily maintenance people. Jim, did you know that 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated?
I believe it, Anth. I mean, honestly, in my line of work, dealing with teaching children and also dancing with adults my age, younger and older, I can almost tell based off of how well people not just perform athletically, but how we carry ourselves and how we communicate back and forth, our facial gestures and just our energy alone. I can tell when somebody's sluggish and they're sleep deprived versus they're just sluggish because they're a dried up sponge because they are dehydrated, right?
Absolutely. And for people like me who are working the 9 to 5, and, for me gigging at night, proper hydration is definitely crucial to maintain function throughout the day and keeping yourself energized. And that's why proper functional hydration is essential. And who's going to give it to you? Liquid IV, because Liquid IV is the number one powered hydration brand in America. Their hydration multiplier is the one product you're missing in your daily routine. I like to use it first thing in the morning. I've been doing a lot of workouts here and there, so I pop it in my water bottle first thing in the morning. Gives me a little boost of energy of what I need. And sometimes during the day when I'm doing that like 2 o'clock rundown, I'll pop a little one. If not in the morning, it gives me a little bit of that energy that I need. With just one stick, you can hydrate real life 2 times faster than water alone, plus get essential vitamins and 3 times the electrolytes as the leading sports drink. And not only that, Liquid IV comes in 12 delicious, refreshing flavors to keep your hydration routine exciting.
Yeah, Anth. I mean, for me personally, like my day to day, I'll wake up and pop a liquid IV just to get my day started and start off with proper hydration. And then I am like required to be physically active between the hours of like 2 or 3 p.m. until 9, 10, 11, sometimes midnight if I'm doing a backup gig. So I'll do another one maybe around noon, 1 p.m., and that'll keep me going throughout the day. And I just feel so much better. I don't even drink coffee on the regular like that because I don't need to pick me up unless if I'm like really just not sleeping much. And then I'm like, all right, get me that. I don't like to rely on caffeine unless I absolutely feel like I need it. Liquid IV does the trick for me. I don't know about you.
Again, one stick with Liquid IV and 16 ounces of water hydrates you 2 times faster and more efficient than water alone. It contains 5 essential vitamins with 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drinks, and it's made with quality ingredients, non GMO, and free of gluten, dairy, and soy.
Liquid IV believes that equitable access to clean and abundant water is the foundation of a healthier world. They partner with leading organizations to fund and foster innovative solutions that help communities protect both their water and their futures. To date, Liquid IV has donated over 39 million servings in 50 plus countries around the world.
Yeah, man. Real people, real flavor, real hydrating. Get 20% off when you go to liquidiv.com and use our code OneSetPod. That's one set pod and at checkout. That's 20% off anything you order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code OneSetPod at liquidiv.com.
Yeah, it's just interesting. Like, I am more interested in dialing in on that. But what I was driving towards is one of the topics they were talking about was how like the Flyers just started preseason, but at Wells Fargo, there are a plethora of like bar areas that people can like see the game that's happening inside Wells Fargo, but also tune in case if there's another Philly team playing, whether it's across the street or away, that people just go to because they're diehard Philly fans, like that, like Philly sports fans, where they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, I paid money for like cheap admission just to get in here so I could watch that, but I also need to pay attention to this. Like that's really cool because if you're at the link watching an Eagles game, or if you're at Citizens Bank watching a Phillies game, um, you're probably not like tuning into the Sixers and the Flyers. Not right now, you're not. Like not in this
Yeah.
era because they're both on like a well, the Sixers have been trying to come on the up and up and up. And apparently the Flyers like have new management going on. Like they're supposed to, like they're actually promising a rebuild year where people are like, okay, we actually trust it now because of who's in charge. And I'm speaking based on what my brother-in-law, who is a diehard Flyers fan, told me like 2 weeks ago. He's like, yeah, that's coming. And I'm like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you wouldn't
Whoopsie.
me on that. You wouldn't just say it to say it. So like I trust his instinct in
Right.
that if there are credible people in the right places, good. Get them moving along. Because if the Eagles and the Phillies are in like a place where they're making the championship round or potential to do so 2 years in a row, like I don't want to say that's going to run out sometime soon because there are other cities that have made it there. The Yankees, number one, right? The Patriots, like forever, right? The Lakers in basketball, right? So it does
Mm-hmm.
happen, but also it's good to have your other cities' teams kind of working towards, hey, they're over here doing it. Why can't we? What are they doing? Like, how are they organizing their club? Now, obviously, all the sports are different, but who's managing, who's owning, what's happening in the back office, like those conversations are important, right? And I can't even speak to them at length because I'm not that kind of fan that can. Um, but yeah,
Well, it definitely seems like we're having a lot of like new changes to like teams that are becoming playoff competitors, because and I kind of like it right now because, come on, the Patriots are 1-4 for the first time in like years. When's the last time you heard about the Patriots being 1-4? So that's just like a mind for even me to be seeing that because just growing up, I've always heard the Patriots being the dominant team. And, basketball, it was always like, certain teams that were always great. Lakers are still doing good, but, they're, you know, doing, okay. Uh, the Sixers, again, right now, they're good, but again, I still don't think they're championship material. They're still working out that puzzle. Um, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Celtics are just right aligned right there. The Bucks are still, really decent in the East, and we had a championship game this past season that nobody expected. I didn't expect those two teams to be in the championship. So I'm not mad about it. I'm all for eventually growing and getting new teams to be, getting in the championships instead of seeing the same cycle of teams in there. So and again, we know it's a business. So you kind of have to and I'm not saying, about sports being rigged in a way, but I can get it and I understand if there's some type of rigging to it because again, it's a business, and it's marketing. You're going to be marketed towards teams that have bigger cities, bigger areas, and a lot more potential to sell tickets. Nobody's going to go see uh, a like a Chicago Bears team playing in the Super Bowl. Because so you're gonna want to see, right now where the Eagles are still, in the running to be Super Bowl contenders, regardless of the
Whoopsie.
storm that we saw this past Sunday. And, we can talk about it or not.
Yeah,
But,
I I think what's good, and not to CB you, but I like that we're having a general conversation because I don't want to talk specifics. Um, because I haven't
yeah,
talked Philly specifics postseason, and I'm holding off until it's the right time to do that. Um, but Eagles
yeah.
not in the postseason. They're very. I mean, they're not even halfway through the season yet, and they ate their first loss. And um,
Which
listening
you
to
knew was going to come eventually. But it's like it was like last year when they lost to the Commanders the first time. It was a tough loss. Where this time, again, it was to a team that you're like they should have won, but they just again didn't come in prepared. It didn't even look like an Eagles team that was like willing to fight. Like Hurts was not there mentally. The loss to Lane Johnson in that game with the ankle injury was a big loss for us. The defense started waking up late in the game. They started getting to the quarterback and making some plays, but then our offense, we didn't run the ball that much. And again, I know we don't want to talk too much specifics, but it was just like the whole thing just didn't seem like we were prepared for that game. But, I think we'll come back around and, we'll be ready.
I'm good with talking specific about the Eagles because it's like I said, we're not halfway through the season yet. Um, again,
Uh-huh.
listening to WIP on my way to work today. Um, you and I were texting about like, man, some of these people that call in, it's really fun, right? So I heard this
Yeah.
guy.
I didn't
I
even listen to WIP this morning because I knew they were just going to
Whoopsie.
all over the Eagles today. So I'm like, there's nothing I'm not going to miss today. So I'm okay. And even tomorrow when I go to work, I know they're still going to be crapping on them. So I'll probably listen tomorrow morning. But I just knew it was going to be a
Whoopsie.
storm this morning of people just calling in and talking so much crap on the Eagles.
yeah. So I mean, um, the one person said it, and this is what I believe. And I spoke to you about this like one on one.
Mm-hmm.
The Eagles have not played a strong game yet. So I feel like they
No.
needed to lose to a not even mediocre team because my dad was trying to say, oh, Jets are like a mediocre team. I'm like, they're not even mediocre. Like, that's the problem, right? Um,
Right.
so I feel like the Eagles needed to eat that L and take it. And it's like, okay, show up and do the job, like get it done against the Dolphins. Sunday Night Football, you're at the link. You're not down in Miami. Like that to me, I'd be like, just get us to the bye week. And then
Yeah.
we have a tough schedule after that even.
Uh-huh.
But for me, if you lose to the Jets and then you go and beat Miami, even if it's not a dominant win, it's like, okay, you lose to the Jets, at the Jets. You beat Miami at home. They have. Oh no, that's right. I got rid of my Eagles background because I was mad because they lost. Sorry. uh, um,
But no, while that
Go ahead.
happens, you know, with Sunday being in Philly, you know, being that, you know, by this Sunday and when this episode comes out, it's going to be the Friday. We're going to have game 4 of the Phillies and the Diamondbacks, hoping we might see a closeout. I doubt it, but you know, going into the Sunday game for the Eagles, those Eagles fans are going to be, you know, ramped up because we're going to be having the Phillies most likely be playing the day before, and then they'll be playing the next night after the Eagles. So it's going to be a weekend of you know, Philly sports. So those fans in the Eagles stadium are going to be ripping people apart. So I think that's what they need. They need this week to just kind of regroup and be like, hey, we haven't been playing the best. We've been skimming by with a lot of these wins, where some of those wins could have easily been losses. So if we want to be, you know, back to where we want to be, we need to start being more tighter and getting more focused. Because you can just tell Jalen was just not there. You know, for him to throw 3 interceptions. Now, not all of those interceptions, I would say, were his fault. I mean, there were a couple of those where the receiver had it, but then it just buckled out. Either it got punched out or the guy just didn't catch it. So not all of them were Jalen Hurts' fault, but yeah, for him to have 3 interceptions in one game is not like him.
Yeah, and I mean, wow. After the Dolphins, it's on to Commanders again in Washington, and then we host Dallas before our bye week. And
yeah,
everyone says just get to the postseason, and we had a 5-0 start. Granted, not solid wins. The team still has a chance to turn around, right? So
yeah,
I mean, a win obviously over the Dolphins would be big.
yes,
But you have 2 division teams after that it's like, hey, you got to get the job done here because you need to win the division, get to the postseason. Even if you don't win the division and just get in on like wild card, which hey, Phillies did it, and look at where they are. They're in the place that they are. I won't even say it's good or bad. But we still have Dallas again and the Giants twice at the tail end of our season, where it's like, yeah, and they all come after facing the Chiefs and the Bills and the Niners, and you got the Seahawks thrown in there,
and like, the Seahawks.
Come on, man. And you have the Cardinals, who apparently are bad, but crushed Dallas,
the Cowboys.
Right.
The Cowgirls, yeah.
So,
who are loving this whole week anyway, but, you know, it's okay. They're not going to make the postseason anyway. And even if they do, they ain't going far, so it don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, they were 13-3 and got shut out in the first round.
In the first round of the playoffs. So shut the f up, Dallas.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, like,
the closest Dak has been to the Super Bowl was getting the award that he got last year. Whoopsie. Golf.
The closest Dak got to the he was one step away from the Super Bowl, and he only didn't make it in with both feet is because he lost a foot in that one season where his foot got totally removed from his ankle. From his ankle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that. Hey. Again, realistically, when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, they were dominant through more than half the season. And not for nothing, pay credit where it's due. Carson Wentz did the job, and that was before he got injured the first time.
Yeah.
He launched bomb and bomb, and I gotta say, the Niners game that I watched last weekend, I was like, oh, the Eagles better step their shit up
Whoopsie.
if we have a chance against them. And
Yeah.
I thought us two were gonna face off each other as undefeated teams. And I was on my way home from rehearsal yesterday, and you were like, "Oh, oh my God, Niners lost by a field goal," and then it just seemed to be the weekend where the kickers were just super off. Like, just
Yeah.
so many kicks went haywire, and it's like, no good, no good.
Like
And I
I
was
was
like,
literally watching it and I'm like, all right, well, it looks like they're gonna be, 6-0. So now Eagles really got it. But then they miss it. I'm like, oh
you mean you thought the Niners were going to be 6-0, and you're like, all right,
I thought they had it in the bag. Yeah. I mean, it
yeah,
was like a 30, 40-yard field goal. I'm like, all right, they got it in the bag. It was like, I think under 10, 15 seconds. And I'm like, all right, this game's over. They won. They missed it. And I'm like, I'm like, whoa.
and it was like 41 yards out. It wasn't even like that long, and it just went
No, it
up.
was almost
It
like a
went
chip.
up, and it just
It was a
cut.
chip putt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just cut right to the right. I'm like, oh, they just lost to the Bears.
And then Jake Elliott put up one similar, not from long. It was just like boom.
Yep.
And I was just like, oh my God, really? No,
Yeah, I think we celebrated too early for that one.
for sure. And I just think, the Eagles putting up 14 points in the first half and the Jets being down 14-3. The Eagles scored nothing in the second half, and the Jets were able to answer. And somehow, like, there were so many times where I was like, oh, the Jets are getting us over. And I was just sitting there waiting for us to have like a dominant play where it's like, all right, that's what we need, and we're winning the game. And it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. And
No.
that was very troubling because you're not playing Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback on the Jets. You're playing the Jets.
Yeah.
And our friend Mike, who is just a diehard Eagles fan, would probably befriend me or just never talk to me again for saying this. But shout out to the Jets. They got their first win over the Eagles in franchise history ever.
Yeah.
And I only say shout out because like the Eagles deserve to lose that game because they just played like such garbage, right? And I feel
like Jen the whole game was like, they deserve to lose this game. They're gonna lose, and I kept saying like they're not gonna lose. They're gonna have a play that's gonna bring them back. They're gonna just like the last couple games that they're gonna have a big play. They're gonna
what
save
I was just saying.
and we're gonna be
yeah.
good.
We're
just
waiting on that big play. Like
stop, the defense will never stop, and then offense will kind of just let the clock run down. We'll be fine. It's okay. I mean, it was another losable game, but we pulled it out. We were fine. Nope. And then it happened, and I'm like, yep, trash. And then I had a Jets fan on my feed. Trash. And I had a Jets fan on my my Facebook friends. He was, saying like, yeah, we beat the Eagles, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, shouts out to you guys. You deserve that win. We played like trash today. I mean, you can't even argue with that loss because we played so poorly. It's one thing if you get beat by a team like that and you played your heart out, then you can argue about it like, hey, we easily had that game, but it was because of an error here that you guys won. Like, no, we played like total trash that whole game. So we deserve to lose it.
Yeah, so I think this is one of those cases because so many people say defenses win games. Our defense was the only saving grace for us to not get completely crushed because our defense showed up, our O-line, and Jalen and the play calling. It was like that was just all bad. You know, poor kicking. Every bad thing aside, the defense was good. Like we held them up where we could. Um, I mean, did the Jets get a touchdown in the game? I thought they didn't get a touchdown in the game. Correct me.
The last one was a touchdown. Everything
Okay.
else was were field goals.
Right.
Yeah. We
Oh,
did miss Darius Slay and I think Carter, one of our defensive players. So both of those guys were out yesterday.
Jalen Carter was out. Yeah,
right?
he was out. Yep.
So two big guys that are really prominent on our defense were out, and then plus Lane Johnson. So we had three like big-eyed players that were out. So again, that was a big loss to the reason why we lost as well. But we should have had people to step up. But it was just, to the point and the thing that we got to work on as well is the red zone. We've been horrible this year with trying to score in the red zone. And instead of trying to get 7 points, we settle for 3. We got to get better at that because, like you said, once we get to playing the Chiefs, the Niners, and the Bills, it's not going to be that much easier either. So if we need to start, finding ways to be better in the red zone and instead of settling for field goals, we're on the board. I always say, hey, it's better to get 3 than if you can't get 7, it's better to have 3. But no, there's times where you got to score in those situations.
Yeah. I mean,
against those type of teams, you got to score. You're not going to win every game with field goals like that. You got to score.
It's like in baseball when there's one out and the bases are loaded and the inning ends, and I'm not even name dropping a team right now because I will not, but there are teams out there who they get the bases loaded and with one out, and it's like, come on. And it's not even just like, yeah, does a double play happen sometimes? Of course. But when it doesn't, and the bases are loaded with 0 1 outs, and it's like, you can't capitalize on that and just drive one run in. It's at the bat. Like, come on, drive a single into the outfield. Don't swing for the fences, right? And it's just, again, you and I are just spectators. We're watching the sport on the outside, and we're like, come on, y'all. Like, could we do it? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
But it's like watching a basketball game, like where a team is ahead by, I don't know, 18, 24 at the half, and then they score 6 points in the third quarter, and the other team is just like, oh, let me just catch up to you real quick. Who's up there?
I'm not going to name a name, but they rhyme. I'm not going to name a name, but they rhyme with Snickers.
Yeah. So again, some of the pain that us fans, just like, hey, come on. Every other sports team, they've run into this where they're watching their team play and they're like, what are you doing? All right, edit that one out. That was bad. Or at least keep the audio and do like a me thing. Me. Yeah. Wow. Jeez. The Eagles, they still have time to recover. The Phillies are on a run. And again, saving that discussion for another time.
Right.
Flyers and Sixers are about to start. Pretty cool stuff. Good time to be a Philly fan. A fan
in Philadelphia. Because this is when you have all 4 sports rolling in, so you have a lot of sports to watch, and this is the time where we're usually doing a lot more sports talk around the fall. Because again, wrestling is usually going down the downslope, so we're usually not talking too much wrestling, and then we get into our sports talks, and then we'll fill in some music and stuff too. But just like we've been talking, this is our 94th episode, and in 6 episodes we have our 100th episode coming up. I still can't believe this, man. And that kind of is a good segue into it, just knowing that we are 6 episodes away, and me and Jim on the behind the scenes level have been jazzing up and talking about our different projects that we're going to be showing you guys on the episode 100. And that obviously we obviously will be in person, and we're going to be giving you some live content right from there. Jim's going to be making up a dance routine, and he'll be posting that. We'll be posting it right on the episode. I'm making a brand new song. I'm going to be releasing it. I'm not sure if it'll be released on streaming platforms on that day, but it will be exclusively on that episode. And maybe I'll give it to exclusive to download for the listeners of the podcast that day. So maybe I'll have an exclusive link that if you guys like the song, you guys can just download it from there. And I'm sure Jim can do something with that as well. And then we have a lot of other things planned. We'll be finalizing a lot of things too. And we want to try to get you guys involved in the episode as well.
Yeah, I mean, really, I've talked on previous episodes. I have kicked around the dozen of ideas that I've had for this, and I am so excited that I finally have committed to the one. Like Anth, I told you, like I went out and I started grabbing certain components that I need for production purposes. That it would only make sense for the one concept that I am married into at this point. So it's gonna be a fun 4 weeks. I have some rehearsals coming up where it's gonna have to like put me in the creative headspace to like really challenge myself to be outside the box. So it's gonna help me so that I'm not just sitting around with nothing to do and like creatively.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty stoked for this one, man. And just to be fair, I have not ever done anything like this in my entire life. So this is going to be really special and unique. And anyone could say that. And I'm like, just to be forthcoming and transparent and honest, or however you want to say it, I'm pretty nervous about this. But
I know you are.
And
I keep telling you, like, this is something you need to do. I'm stoked that you're doing it. I cannot wait to see it. And this is going to be, I think the start for something for you. And like, and I'm not the only person that's been trying to tell you to get stuff out there. I know you've been having people say like, you need to get stuff out there and just start, not necessarily just posting stuff on social media, but just like, just showing other people you're on. I know just like the same way of me, like you're very passionate about your dance and how you portray yourself. So it's like, you just don't put it out there to put it out there. You're very key into what you put out. So, but I think this is something that's going to change it up for you. I have a feeling, and I'm stoked to see what you come up with.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I get an idea and I get like immediately inspired by it, and I'll listen to it endlessly. Like I'll actually try to make it not the thing I want to do. And the fact that this is something that's been on my mind for several months, maybe not that long. Something that like I had pondered long ago. Recent events have actually brought it to light, and then it scares me to do it because I don't want to do it wrong. But I'm like, yeah, no, I'm gonna do
Yeah,
it, kind of thing. Um,
yeah. It's one of those things like it's like it's scary, but you're like, hey, I just got to do it. And then
yeah,
once you do it, it's gonna be like, all right, this was I'm always scared when I release music because releasing you're releasing a baby into the world,
mhm,
and you want people to all like it. And when I mean, you're gonna eventually get negative things, but like, you don't want to hear them, but you kind of have to just block those things out because, it's the internet these days and people are there's something that I heard today that, somebody said, I used to try to worry about making everybody like my craft, but then realizing when I got older, I need to focus on the people who already like my music and really devote it to them because the people who that are just
Whoopsie.
posting you and stuff, you got to let that stuff just, go out into the like internet and do whatever because people are just going to do that to get a rise out of you. But the people who are really showing you your support and, giving you the feedback that you want, those are the people you want to continue to give back to and be like, hey, I'm making the music for you guys, or I'm doing these dance performances and posting them out for you guys who like it. I mean, the people who continue to just, you know, go on people's pages and just be like, you suck. You should stop doing this. You should, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. Half these people that talk that stuff anyway have never picked up an instrument or probably never even, did a dance step in their lives. So I think that's something that even with me posting my stuff, I try to either A, ignore those negative comments, or B, I'll just, say, cool, thanks for at least checking it out. Because if you're writing something to me, you at least gave me a stream or you at least took time to check something out. So it's a win-win for me anyway. So
right,
whatever.
yeah. And the only counter to that, um, that whole concept, and this is obviously on like a rare circumstance. Like you and I watched Matt Rife on Two Bears, and he was like, "Hey, I know that I could just cater entirely to the female base that is just all about me." And
Yes.
he's like, "I actually want to like make my content quality and cater to towards people that just appreciate comedy." That was big for me, and
Yeah.
not big, but just really eye opening because, like he said, he totally could. And Tom was like, "Yeah, you totally could." And then
Hmm.
your like your popularity would just slim down so quickly. But the fact that he's like busting his
Whoopsie.
going out of his way to be like, "Yeah, hey,
Hmm.
I am gonna do these crowd interactions things because I'm doing it like it's like what I got known for and it's what I am known for." He knows
Yeah.
that that's like something that he is strong at, that he's stronger at than a lot of people, right?
Uh-huh.
But he also grew up through, I wanted to write good comedy. And
Hmm.
the fact that he's not selling out to, hey, I know what's going to get me popular and I'm just going to gravitate towards that, and he's still he acknowledges it. He's like, "Hey, I know that helped me a lot to get me to where I am." Um he's still fighting to be like, "Hey, I still want to be a quality comedian and tell
Hmm.
good stories and provide stuff that everyone can laugh to." Um, and it would that was just like such a cool episode.
It
And
was. Yeah.
you and I were talking about it during the episode. Like I said, hey, Cheyenne went and saw him, because she had girlfriends that were like, "Oh, Matt Rife, the biggest thing," blah, blah, blah. And Cheyenne was not like a big comedy person. I like that I know of until she met
Hmm.
me and has watched me watch so much comedy. and watched what really makes me laugh. And she
Yeah.
has been trying to understand, okay, what brings him like not just joy, but distraction from like real world bullshit that
Whoopsie.
happens day to day.
Yeah.
And, you know, that to me, and that's why I told you, I was like, when she said she was going, I was like, okay, good. Okay, good.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So, thank you, Cheyenne. Anyway, um, that episode, and I know last week I was like kind of dogging on it because it was very like nutrition based and science based, and I was just like, yeah, I'm not feeling this because like that's not where my mindset is right now. Um,
hmm
and that doesn't mean that I haven't been there or that I'll never go to that place. But like I told you, I was like, if I ever want inspiration in that regard, I know what episode that I'm watching because there was a lot of really good stuff on that last episode. I was just not in that headspace. So it was really
Yeah.
cool. It was really cool to see today's episode. Shout out to a huge inspiration of Anthony's and mine. Two Bears, One Cave, Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer. Bert was not on the episode. The Matt Rife was the guest on the pod today. So if you
hmm
haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Such a good one.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. How about we put a wrap on this one? Well, I know we've been doing a lot of long episodes, but I think we can benefit from a shorter one this for this week because we got a lot of things we got to talk about for the coming up weeks and leading up to this 100 episode. We got some work to put in, ladies and gentlemen. uh I just and with what Jim was saying, I just got my ramped up feeling of inspiration. I just started doing vocals again this past weekend. I literally got my new vocal booth set up. I was laying down vocals in it, and to any music production or music people out there, I'll speak on this briefly, but like you can definitely tell like a slight difference in the quality of the recordings of the vocals. I can definitely tell there's a slight difference when you're recording in an average room versus when I'm in that little vocal booth. It's just a deadened sound. There's no things to like bounce off of. So it's not a soundproof room, but it's basically just like a resident, like it takes all the reverb out of the room that you're in. So uh I think I'm gonna put a video up eventually of like the setup of it. And it was pretty much just a PVC pipe structure, and then I bought these moving blankets. So it's a DIY type vocal booth. And so I'm very, very excited how the vocals are turning out on this song right now. And there's another song that I'm trying to finish, but I'm using that as a backup just in case this one doesn't work out. So I'm still trying to see which one will make the pod episode. It'd be cool if I can get two, but I know I'm definitely going to at least get one. But I'm very inspired, very motivated to get this stuff done, even with the pressure that we have going in right now. But it's a very stripped down song that I'm working on now, so it shouldn't be too much mixing and mastering for this one versus my last one where it was more of a full band with electric guitars, acoustics, drums, bass, this and that. Where this, uh it has a little bit of everything, but it's more stripped back and mellow toned. So should be fun. And I'm excited for it, guys. And like you said, if you haven't yet, make sure you guys are subscribed to our YouTube channel over here. Click the link, click the bells, get notified every Friday when we upload. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram at One Set Pod. Send over those emails at onesetpod@gmail.com. We have some exclusive content on Patreon, you guys can get the audio episodes the day before our episodes drop, and we have some discounted merch you guys can get available, and some more perks that we're continuing to work on for you guys in the private community. Just go over to patreon.com/onesetpod, sign up for free, and get started. And then if you want to do paid tiers, there's paid tiers there as well. And also, check out the merch. We have t-shirts, hoodies, and we'll be updating those very soon too. Woo!
Dude, you are the bomb at all of that. And like,
Stop.
I know.
Stop.
I was literally just while you were saying all that, I was just literally sitting here thinking about how nervous I was. And I know I've talked about this before with you and maybe mentioned it on here. God, those first 5 to 10 episodes, I was just like, oh, like I had the nervous jitters, like, oh, I gotta go on and talk. And now it's just like, hey, you ready? And I'm like, yeah, I'm plugged in. Or
Let's go.
Yeah, gimme. And then I'm like ready to go, and I'm like, come on, let's do this again. I'm ready to go. Like, I look forward to this every week with you, Anth, obviously.
Same.
To our listeners, thank you. Present, in the future, we love you. We appreciate you. Anth, you and I are just best friends out here having a good time. And I love
Absolutely,
and appreciate
brother.
all of the time that you put in for this. And I love being a part of this. I love that we're doing this. I can't believe we're coming up on 100 soon. It is just a wild, wild thing to think.
Yeah, man, it's awesome, and can't think of another better person to do it with, man. I love you.
Right back at you. All the love to everyone. We love you. I speak on behalf of Anthony and myself here. We love you. And thank you so much. This has been One Set.